Oh, YouTube. Oh my gosh. Ronan Kazi. Sorry for the puberty voice. I'm going to do a video today, which I always have said I'm not going to do, but I'm going to do it anyways. I'm going to cherry pick doing heroic, so I'm using my file jammer build. I've thrown the blinder on there. Shout out to Ultimate Shield for putting that back in the forefront of my mind. And I'm gonna push really hard, and I'm just gonna show you what the build can do on a heroic. A lot of times I've said I don't like to play this build because it's too overpowering, because it just locks everyone down, and it does, and it's easy to play. This isn't my most DPS build. This is my, I'm gonna say it's my standard survival build, which I have survivability, I have fast recharge, but I don't have status effect damage up a bunch. The key, there's two keys to this. One is the Vile Mask, number two is Creeping Death. And then to proc Vile, you need to put a status effect. So that could be with the Jammer Pulse, because it does a disorient or whatever it does, and blind for blinder. If you put a bleed on them, it starts this additional Vile. And in this case, you can see on normal targets, I'm doing 50, so I'm doing 500k to these targets. As you go down in difficulty, that proportion of the damage is greater, so you kill things faster. So if I was on a hard or normal, I'd just be wiping these guys out. Same mission. I'm going to move forward all the way. This is like the third part of this subway tunnel thing. It ends up in a hotel. And I'm going all the way back in there. You can even go further so I can see everything. And I'm going to pulse them. It has the ongoing event on, and when it spawns people, it gives an indication that they're there, so that's even more. I go over to support my buddies. I'm not going to say I didn't go down, I went down. I'm way more aggressive than I normally would play. But in general, we were never any, it's only a heroic fight. So why am I also doing this? You can play whatever build you want. You can put whatever pieces you want together and do a heroic. I've done heroic control points with purples and golds. It's called purple and gold in my list. I'm not going to put it up here. Maybe I should. If I was a better YouTuber, I would. You can do it with purples. Sometimes I would love to just make the worst build possible. A different green piece from every one. That's probably the best, because they don't have additional talents on them. And roll it maybe with hazardous. Maybe do the summit on normal, get green pieces, and then roll like explosive damage reduction or some hazards reduction on it. That might be the worst sets. And then go try to do this. Part of the benefit I have in this build is I have 20%, I'm working on 21% expertise, and it allows me, on my pulse, to get 20% more range. My blinder, I think I've got up to 10% more blind. If I use a turret, it's 20%. If you're a person with watch score, let's say like less than 10 or less than 100, eventually you'll have 10% additional skill damage, so you're really losing out 30% damage to what I have, so it's really not a fair comparison. This is the final part. You can see with a blinder at a choke point, it just locks everything down. I played with this same group. Here's, I think, the Air Force Museum or the Air and Space Museum. And again, what I'm showing you is with this build, you're going to just, on heroics and everything, even legendaries, it's pretty good. You can't hold them as long. And the key to this is to use the blind first, because it needs to proc the Creeping Death, because you don't really need Creeping Death on Vile or the Jammer Pulse, because it's kind of an AoE thing. It's just extra. And I like having extra. Do you have to play this? This might be boring for some people. And I agree, sometimes it's boring just killing everything without shooting. So I've made other builds where you can shoot and kill and that kind of stuff. But your builds are better than mine. I'm just going to say that. If you're starting, your builds are probably better than mine on the red stuff. What's the genesis for this build? The idea of this build is to stay in cover and kill everything without getting out of cover, because I'm using these builds in Legendary. And I really don't change my game style much. If I wasn't going against, I think someone in the group has, I'm going to call it Ambrosia. For those of you that are watching the channel, you'll know what that means. But Banshee, one of the people has Banshee in the group. If I wasn't going against the Black Tusk, I would use Banshee. Banshee and Firefly are deadly. They just lock everything down forever. But to cut down dogs and to stop drones, I'm going to use the Jammer Pulse. Now we're in whatever this place is, NASA. Fake NASA. This is the third part, the third floor. I race up to the top here, and then you just pulse from here. Again, one of the things with this build is it's omnidirectional, it's multi-level. One of the problems with Banshee is it's like one directional. We tear these guys up. So I've never done this before, but it's only heroic. So they don't get off the roof. So I blind them, which holds them. Then someone throws a hive up there. And this isn't to show off, this is just to say, I say this in all my Legendary builds. On Heroic it doesn't matter, and this is why I'm telling you it doesn't matter. And I tell you that some of the stuff I'm doing is overpowered because look at, those guys aren't going to even leave the helo. And here on this portion C, they do get a little bit, just because the spawn's different. 2 people are going to come out the door. I think 2 come out that door and 1 to my right. Again, lining everything up. This is the boss room. And that sets the stage for everything that's going to happen. I ran with these guys basically for 4 missions. We did the 3 prerequisite Black Tusk missions, and then we did the capital, which you're going to see here next. Maybe not next, but pretty soon next. So what makes part of this is this build is a fast recharge. So like on my Vial Jammer, it's 12.5 seconds. That's kind of the gauge I do for it. You know, if you can get it down to 12 seconds, that's good. Okay, so now we're on the capital. The other thing in a Legendary, without looking at people you want to do damage, that's again, Jammer is omnidirectional. That's why I do it. You'll see the tank has, and it's heroic, so I go right up here like it's nothing. Again, the difference, why do people come up here in Legendary? Because in heroic, they can go up there. You wouldn't do this in Legendary either. I'm going to go up and fight from here. I'm going to fight backwards. And my teammates, right, were like, what the fuck are you doing? But then they're going to like, because they've been with me and I've been just rolling everything in here. And they've been rolling everything. So they eventually go, okay, we got to start it. I'm staying here for a while. Eventually I die up here. I crawl down. Someone reses me and then we finish out. Had to kill like 2 more guys. You saw that guy right there with Banshee. So in a group, you have someone doing Banshee, you have someone doing Vial Jammer against Black Tusk. They don't really stand a chance. But what's the difference between Heroic and Legendary? You would never come up here in a Legendary. It's a Christmas marathon, you need to kill him. So that's the thing. And it's not really any harder. You just got to look at the mission a little bit different and approach it a little bit different. And so, not to be such a royal pain in the butt to the people in the group, I switched to my tank build, which has Ridgeway on the chest. It puts bleeds on people, has a lot of recovery, and it has a deflector shield with I'm electronics build with it, so I can use the Artificer Hive, so I'm constantly healing the shield. So that, and I use Liberty, so it's a pretty stout build for a heroic. And I think that's about enough of that part. So you should be trying. So after you beat what's his face and you become an agent, the first thing is you're trying to get your watch level up where everything's 10%. And during this time, you should be figuring out what build you like to do, what kind of damage you like to do, what game style. But once you get that to 10%, and it's about 800, I think, watch score, you should start building sets. And you should have a couple sets. You should have a weapon DPS set. You should have a skill DPS set. You should have a skill support, whether that's healing or status effects. And you should have a tank build. You should have those 4 builds. And then you should have, maybe guilty pleasures like ongoing directive or those kind of things. Also, we're in the stupid event where the polarity event. So one of the things about skill builds in a polarity event, they don't give a shit. So that's the other thing. If you want to go through polarity events fast, then you have your skill DPS build to do that. Otherwise, you're stuck matching you're changing weapons a lot slower. If you want to be a real jerk to your group mates or your clan mates, you're going to get a shield build and then you're going to hit the person with your shield and it changes their color. And you'll just keep doing that to drive them insane. That's probably why I'm not in a clan review. Maybe they kicked me out. Maybe they didn't. One of the benefits of Ridgeway is then all the weapons I have some type of bleed in them. That AK has a bleed, so that puts bleed on them. I get a healing back from that. And so my teammates are cleaning up everything. I'm just going around to these spawn points and just camping them. If I wasn't in polarity, what would happen is when they'd all fire at me, I'd kill them all really fast because they'd be deflected into what they have. Normally around this point, I want to thank you for subscribing, sharing, liking, commenting. Had a couple new people. Grin is a new person. Had a person last night or yesterday put on a really great post about skill builds. I agree pretty much with everything that person said. They use rigor, so I'm going to go back and try to get a rigor and do a comparison in the damage of the builds. And I also want you to realize what the angle I'm always coming from is I'm concerned about running legendaries. That's what I do. I don't really run heroics anymore. Maybe I run a heroic to warm up. What I do a lot of shepherding, or I used to. When I do a shepherd, I will be with a person, and so whatever they're playing, I'll do. But normally, I'm trying to do legendaries. And so a lot of this commentary is on legendaries. And what I figured out is, if you don't like doing PvP, you might not like doing legendary. Not saying there's a correlation between two, just saying there's some content that's not interesting to you. So if you're not interested in doing legendary, then some of my content doesn't correspond one-to-one to what you do. What I would say is, all these builds I build for legendary are just, they absolutely thrash in heroic and lower. And I want you to think about lower level content if you have to go through it. You want to have an AoE, area of effect damage, because you want to kill the most people the fastest. Seekers are okay. I don't know if there's a limit of how many people you can kill at a time. I haven't counted the number of people that spawn. Maybe it's 9. Problem with Seekers is sometimes they don't always hit. There's no problem. The problem with blind is sometimes it misfires. The problem with Chem Launcher in some of my videos is you Chem launch yourself. It has a slow recharge time. And, you know, with the flammable one, you got to shoot it, then you got to equip a weapon, and then you got, it's a lot of machinations to get it going. So I've picked the easiest build, which is this Vial Jammer build. If you're by yourself, please don't admit it to anyone. It's like a scooter. You don't tell your friends you ride a scooter, but you enjoy the scooter. You don't have to tell your friends you're doing Vial Jammer, but I'm telling you, if you want to go through content fast, you're going to do it. And you can see this guy doesn't do anything. This is another trick. Whatever polarity they are, you need to have your polarity on that same thing to get your deflection shield to work properly. And by work properly is do more damage. So sometimes I won't shoot them because I just want to get that damage. So this is Ronin Kazi. There, I cherry picked a bunch of videos to show how great my build is, and I apologize. Sorry, internet, but ambrosia. Thank you, bye.